so hopefully you can see me and hear me. Today we are at Gettysburg, so we're going to learn from Nick's uncle Snyder all about the different battles and monuments and different events that went down here. So yeah, we'll kind of show you around a little bit. It's pretty cool. You can see just kind of like sprawled all over the landscape are the different monuments and statues of like this hill and this crest, this happened here, and yeah. And here we go, we're ready to start our tour. Say hi, Nikki.
Hello.
What do you think so far?
I like it. I wish I was a little bit more awake.
I know, 2 hours of sleep.
It's really,
FT-dub.
really cool and a lot of cool history. And we passed the place where the guy was looking out and seeing all the soldiers coming from the distance and did the stand against the Confederates. And
yay!
It's really cool, and there's a lot of really cool statues and stuff over here, and it's fun to see Snyder like a little kid.
He's giddy.
He's so happy.
Yeah, he's got his chair and his whiteboard and notes, like 2 binders of notes and photos and things to give us the full lecture and presentation. And here is the lovely Alex. Hello. There's Nick being a tourist.
I want to keep the information. This is how I...
Yeah. Okay. Cannons. So cool. Just get this sense of awe.
Now, if you guys will come over here, I'll try to lay out the story for you on the first day.
One other thing I got from this, from my research, was a lot of these guys were experienced in the Indian Wars and the Mexican Wars. And so they...
Mormon Wars, Indian Wars, yeah. Some of them from that had fought in Europe had fought in the German Wars. And this guy I was showing you, the Frenchman, he'd fought in some of the Louis XIV's wars with Italy. So there was a lot of experience here. But they really weren't ready for what was going to happen because technology, as Nick knows, changes everything. And it changes faster than people are aware of, and it changes things. And now by '63, these people realized that technology changed. But in the beginning of the war, they were dealing with things had not adjusted themselves because most of those men had fought in Mexico. But anyway, let me just kind of paint the picture here. And you use your cavalry as kind of mounted infantry. You bring them up fast, and then you can interdict. You can prevent an army from moving around, and also this is the best way to gather intelligence. So Buford has developed a style of fighting from fighting Indians out in the West, and that is every 4th cavalryman would take the cavalry mounts to the back. So if you were here, you would take them perhaps behind those trees there, maybe behind this over here is called Forney Wood, McPherson's Wood over here. Get them out of the way so they don't kill the mounts. And by the way, an enemy at that time knew if you killed your mounts, you destroyed the cavalry. So a prime target might not actually be the men, it would be to kill the horses. Someone recently wrote a book called The Mount. A mount is a horse, a cavalry
And
mount.
all of them, everybody in the cavalry rode a horse, right?
Yes, and very often they had a second horse. So they could run and then they get off and get on the other horse and wear the horse. Wouldn't wear. Well, you're a country girl, you know that, right?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, really? Okay. I saw you on a tractor, so I thought that. Anyway, this is John Buford here. This is the man who's depicted over here. And notice that he's a cavalry commander and he's not on a horse. Well, I'm telling you why. He's the infantry and he's on a horse. And there's a reason for this. I mean, it sounds, well, what's that about? I even heard James McPherson, who's the great Civil War writer, say, well, that's really weird. How come this guy's on a horse and the other? Well, I guess I know more about it than him. The reason is that this guy developed the tactics of using cavalry in dismounted form. At this time, in order to be a leader in the fog of war, during a time where after you fire 1 or 2 volleys, there's so much smoke, you can't see it. It's not like it. It's all the smoke and reaction. So it's small commander, colonels and above, majors, were always mounted. They were expected to be mounted, but that makes you a target. But the only way you can command would be in front on a mount. So it took real huevos, if you know what I mean, to be a field commander at that time, because everybody's shooting at you, and you have to show them that you're not afraid and that you're out in front where they can see you and they can be rallied. So Reynolds here, he was shot from his horse over here. But anyway, getting back, John Buford picks this site to, it might be 20 feet of height difference. But coming up, they're coming against gravity. And by the way, on that day, they're also coming against the light. The sun's in the back behind us. They're having to work uphill, and also you have the ability to see more of them than they can see of you because you're in the ridge. So having the high ground is always an advantage in war. I mean, it's why you want to control space. This may only be 20 or 30 feet to our eye, we're driving on cars, but to a cavalry officer, a trained soldier, this is a tremendous advantage. We can see more of him than he can see of us, and that gives us an advantage. And if we have to fall back,
our projectiles can go farther than his.
Well, I'm not sure that that's a particularly important thing. What it is that
the supply getting it uphill.
When he's coming up, he has to expose himself, and all you have to do is shoot down at him, and that gives you an advantage. He's going to need advantage because he's only got about 2,000 men here. And like I said, 1/4 of them are standing back with mounts, which means he's only got 1,500 men. And down this road, which is called the Chambersburg Pike, or also called the Cashtown Road, in the movie it's called Cashtown, because there's a little town at the base of the South Mountain called Cashtown. There was only one building, the tavern. And they're coming up this way, and Buford arrays his 2 brigades on either side of the Chambersburg Pike. He takes a brigade on that side, and it's under the command of a William Gamble, who's born in Ireland. So this is the story you got here. It's so important now. We all talk about immigrants, and we don't know really how to, we don't know, especially as conservatives, how to really take that, and we like it and we don't like it. But I'm going to tell you what, Gettysburg is one of the great testimonials to the loyalty of people that weren't born in America, because a lot of them weren't born here, and they fought for the United States of America. William Gamble is one of them. His men are stationed at probably about 1.5 miles, and at about 7:30 in the morning, there's a young lieutenant named Marcellus Jones. He takes out his gun and he takes a shot at these 20,000 men that are coming down, and the battle's on at 7:30 in the morning. The 7th Illinois comes shooting down here and says, "They're coming down the road. We got to do something." General Buford has a mounted cavalry artillery unit, which is actually those 4 guns. Okay, there's 2 more that they don't know what happened. These 2 and those other 4. And so that increases his firepower many-fold over the guys that have to shove the mini ball down the front. So they kind of give you a kind of, so that for your imagination, now this is the wrong one. Who's got the big slug here? The 58 caliber slug, if you can imagine the rifle, I wish I had one, but even if I had, I don't think I could take it on the battlefield. I think, I'd get arrested. But it came in a paper casing. And what the guys would do, you had to have good teeth to be in the Army. Break off the casing with the black powder in it, pour some of the black powder down it, take it and ram this down the front. Then they would pick it up, cock the weapon. They had a cartridge box that required them to put like a little cap on it. It's called a cap, percussion cap. Stick the percussion cap on it, cock it, aim it, fire. And then you had to do that. A good soldier could do that 3 or 4 times a minute. With a Henry rifle, you could probably get 12 or 15 rounds off because each one you had to be loaded. The problem with the Henry rifle was it had technical problems. Metal, you remember when we checked the materials at the academy? You remember that? You did remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you remember metal has what's called memory. Remember memory?
Yeah.
And that means when they expand it, they come back to the same size. Brass is very good, but brass is expensive and it's hard to shape. But copper is really easy, so they had copper cartridges, and sometimes they couldn't get them out of the breech, and they would foul up the gun. So they had like a little screw, and they had to go and pull it out that way. But if it didn't expand properly, you were in a lot of trouble. But if it expanded properly and it went back to its original size, you pull it out and stick another one in there. But it undoubtedly increased the effective firepower of Buford's cavalry here, probably 3-fold. So like he had 6,000 men here. But you still have 25,000 guys coming out here. And by the way, in about 1.5 hours, there's going to be another 25,000 showing up over here. And he knows it because his vedettes, his pickets are coming over and says, you know, we're going to get crushed like a nut here if we don't. Reynolds has got to come up. He's got to come up right now. So anyway, he disposes his army. We've got James Archer's on this side. We've got Joe Davis's enormous brigade on this side, and unfortunately, you can see the other brigades behind it. There's another brigade by Brockenbrough on that side and Pettigrew on that side, and behind that you got Pinder's division. You're looking at 25,000 men. Okay, but we're going to fake it over here. Now this, like I said, I don't know why the Gettysburg Foundation doesn't take better care of this. There was a fencing that ran along here. Remember the worm fencing I talked about? Did you guys hear me?
Yes.
There was a worm fence that ran along this side. It's not here now. This rail fence, not this particular, but a rail fence ran along here. And there were several other buildings here that I guess have vanished over time. There's a carriage house and some others. And this is where they in that first part of the movie that you see, this is where that firefight takes place. And what they do, but it doesn't take place here. It really starts over in Hare Ridge, and they're just slowly giving it up. The forward pickets are trying to feel out how many men are there. They can't really make it out. They got guns firing from all over the place. There seems to be Union guys all over the place, but we're not sure who are these people? Who's shooting at us? Is this militia? Is this regular army? The command structure of the Confederate Army is way back in Cashtown, so they're not making the decisions. This is local decision making down here. And there's a big argument going on in the Confederate. Those guys are professional. This is not militia. Oh, it's just militia. Who else? Oh, no. These are professional guys. Look what they're doing. So they didn't really know how to do it, and that bought them time. They faked it. But by 10:30, this entire line was about to collapse, and that's when Reynolds shows up. Reynolds, literally, just like in the movie, he's a real 19th century soldier. He's not leading from behind. He's not in the command jeep. He's not. He shows up first with his staff, riding along. And like I said, if you come over here in that cupola, there's two spires, and that's where Buford was. He was in the shorter spire. The other one was built above. We drove by it, and we're going to go by it again because it's the only way I can get over here. The forest was not as tall as it is now, so he had a direct line. He could see all the way down Cashville town, about 7 miles. And Buford comes, Reynolds comes up, and literally that's what the exchange of words are. How goes the war, John? Well, we got a devil to pay. And at that point, Reynolds turns around, literally gallops back, and the first American, not Yankee, but United States Army brigade that comes up is a guy named Lysander Cutler. You got to look at this guy's picture. Now tell me if this is old Army or what. There's some other pictures here. You know, I should take them out here. I told you that the guys that were down there was under a guy named William Gamble from Ireland. This is a picture of his staff. That's William Gamble right there.
They did a good job.
This is a picture of that guy named Burns. Like I said, I'll talk to you about him a little bit later. Just when you're done, if you just put him down, I'll gather him up. But this guy had been the constable. He'd served in the War of 1812, and he'd spent his whole life protecting this town. He was 69 years old. Notice he's got an old flintlock rifle next to him. And wind blow. Yeah, and let me close that up.
He was the town constable?
He'd been the town constable. He was retired. Can you tell? Okay, he's retired. And when he starts hearing the artillery, he's from the old War 1812. My country needs me. And he grabs his rifle, this rifle, and he comes out and he will form up along with all the other men in the brigade of the Iron Brigade, along with the 19th Indiana. Woo! Yeah, woo! The 19th Indiana. And he will, in the course of this battle, be wounded 3 times and still survive. And that's the picture of that guy that's pointing right there.
That's a miracle.
So, well, that's where it was right there. That was like taken 3 days later. So there must not have been severe wounds.
Let's see.
John Burns. The 5 regiments, 2nd, 6th, and 7th Wisconsin, the 19th Indiana, and the 24th Michigan. This was the finest brigade probably in the Union Army. And like I said, they pushed Archer back through this area. James Archer was actually captured, I think by the 19th Indiana or the 2nd Wisconsin, I can't remember. He was the only Confederate general in the entire war up to this point who was ever captured during a battle. So James Archer would, as a matter of fact, he would be captured by the Iron Brigade. They would take like 350 prisoners of war. They broke Archer's brigade, and this brigade is never an effective brigade again. It basically is eliminated from the army of Northern Virginia, which is the Confederate Army.
Huzzah!
Huzzah!